Okay, hi guys. So, just ignore this. I got this yesterday and I decided I was going to put all my 2-ounce bottles in it. So, I'm coming to you today with a video on how I mix my paints. I get so many questions from people on how I do it, and it's always the same. For the most part, sometimes I'll change it up a bit. It depends on the Floetrol too. So I mean, if the Floetrol is thin, then you know you need a little extra paint. If the Floetrol is on the thicker side, a little less paint at times. It depends also on how dark you want your color. So what I'm gonna do today is mix up 6 types of paints, or 5 types of paints. I have a heavy body, I have Artezas in the pouch, and I have Liquitex Basics Prussian Blue. I'm going to show you how I mix my Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White. And I have Deco Art Extreme Sheen in Coral and Craft Smart Radiant Gold Metallic. So we're going to work with these. I'll start off with these 2 because it's going to be the fastest, and then we'll get to the rest of it all. I always strain my Floetrol, and I do want to grab a paper towel. So these are 7-ounce cups, these are 9-ounce cups, this is an 18-ounce cup. This is my pouring cup, but it's also my base and my base colors usually. Like sometimes I do Prussian blue, sometimes I do white, black, etc. So I always mix them in this because I'm always going to need more of this than the rest of the colors. So we will deal with that after. And I've got my stir sticks. I've never mixed my paints on screen, so this is the first time ever. So in a 7-ounce cup, this is the 2-ounce line. And I mix them equal parts. Floetrol to paint. A little more. There we go. We're just gonna prop this up. These are 2-ounce bottles, so I'm going to empty the whole bottle in the Floetrol. Now, not all the paint will get in there, so then I'll keep it on the side and I'll let it sit on its top so all the paint falls, gravity takes place, etc. And then I'll put more in the cup. But for the most part, this is it. All right. I'm gonna stir stick for this one, and pretty much gonna just stop this one and just let it sit upside down. I guess it doesn't want, there we go. It wasn't ready. So I'm gonna sit these both right there, get another stir stick. If your Floetrol is thin, you're not gonna wanna mix them equal parts. So you might want to reduce your Floetrol a little bit. There is some playing around. I do everything by feel. I don't measure anything, but given that that's a 2-ounce bottle, it's pretty easy to measure that. I also typically let my paint sit after. So that is the consistency. So those are my metallics. Then let's take this cup, and what I'm going to do is eyeball how far I want to mix it. Usually 2 to 1. I'm not quite sure how much that is, but in a 9-ounce cup, it's like the 4th line up. Guess I should probably actually measure that so that you guys know where I'm starting from. So I'm starting at the 4-ounce line. So this is a 4-ounce cup. This is 4 ounces of Floetrol in that cup. So I'm going to put about 2 ounces, maybe a little less of this. And I'm going to start off slow. Cup down. And we're just going to mix because we don't want to end up putting too much paint in there, but the general idea is 2 to 1. And I will reuse these cups multiple times. So that is about where I want it to be. So it leaves a bit of trace. The paint's almost foldable, and we're good to go. All right, now I'm gonna do the same thing in here, and I'm gonna have to use less paint in the next one. Again, a 9-ounce cup with 4 ounces of Floetrol, and that is really gross. That's why we strain our Floetrol. So I'm actually gonna do probably 6 ounces of Floetrol in here. Okay. And I'm gonna take the heavy-bodied paint by Liquitex, and it's deep turquoise. And I'm only gonna do that, well, maybe a little more. Okay, there we go. Very little, not even an ounce, because this is a 2-ounce tube. So let's see how we do. You can see there's like dark lines in there. That's the paint not mixed yet. So you want to make sure that your paint is consistently the same color throughout, and that those different colored lines are not appearing, because that just means they're still not fully mixed up. And as you can see, the more I am stirring, the darker it is getting over time. Some paints take a little while longer to mix thoroughly. So I want it darker than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another dollop of it and see where we're at after that. So what I'm going to do is just let this sit for a minute. My carpal tunnel is killing me today. Throbbing. So we're going to let that sit. And if it sits for a little while, the Floetrol will start breaking down the paint, which is exactly what we want to do. So those lumps won't necessarily be there. And then sometimes I actually strain them through the strainer just to make sure, especially heavy-bodied paints, that it's thoroughly mixed. But we're not going to do that until after. All right, next is Arteza's Pearl Turquoise. I'm just going to put that back there. So about 6 ounces in there. I don't know if I was off screen or what, but 9-ounce cup. We're gonna open up the Arteza. It's fairly thick. Let's see how this one does mixing up. Sometimes their gold doesn't mix as well and I have to really work with it, but this seems to be doing okay. All right, definitely gonna add some more. I don't know if I'm gonna add any more because this is actually really, really nice. I mean, that wasn't even an ounce of that paint to 6 ounces of Floetrol. And there you go. It's a beautiful color. So, as you can see, some of my paints are thickening up, which is okay by me. I'm just gonna use them just as is. Give this another stir and then we'll do the white after that. All right, let's do the white. So again, an 18-ounce cup. I'm gonna put about 12 ounces of the Floetrol in there because I mixed my white 2 to 1. All right, I'm actually gonna pour some of this out. All right, so my paint's up to about right here. So put that to the side. gonna mix it really well. So when I make my white, not today of course, because I have some left over from the other day, so I don't want to make too much. I typically do it in a 1 quart container from Home Depot. And a 1 quart container consists of approximately 24-25 ounces. And it has measurements on the side. So I'll typically go to the 16 mark. So I'll do 16 ounces of Floetrol, and then I'll add white until I reach the 24 ounce. And I use a big spatula to mix it. I don't typically do it in a cup because I always need about a quart of white mixed. So, but for all intents and purposes of this video, I just did it in an 18 ounce cup. And that is the thickness on that. So with this, after it's mixed, what I'll do is, I'll actually show you what I'm gonna do. So I have a pre-mixed batch of white from yesterday morning, and I want them to be the same consistency, and they usually are, but when paints sit, they tend to thicken. So what I'll do is when I have batches of white, black, or whatnot as my main color, I will mix them together with the leftover just to make sure that the consistency is fairly good across the board in both cups, because you don't want two different consistencies of your base or what you're adding to your layered cup. So that is that. Now when I make my galaxy pours, or what I'm doing nowadays, I usually just use this scoop also, and I scoop out some satin enamel white and I put them in the cup. So that's how I get my cloud-like features. They're definitely not Melly D's clouds. Her clouds are fabulous. I have a different style, I guess. But, you know, believe me, I tried to get those clouds, and I just can't do it. We definitely both mix our paints completely different. And she actually just put out a video on mixing paints, so on how she mixes her paints. It's quite educational, and definitely worth a watch for sure. Definitely shows different ways to mix, paint ratios to medium, etc. So anywho, the cup that I had leftover paint in already had the satin enamel, so I might only do 1 scoop of satin enamel all together, because I don't want to put too much in there, because then it'll just be a fluttered mess, and we don't want that. So that's how I mix my paints. I think next we're gonna pour a painting with these colors. I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, guys, actually I meant to show you how I strain this paint. It is really thick, so I'm gonna give it one more stir. This is the Deep Turquoise by Liquitex Basics. It's their heavy body paint, and I'm going to strain it just to make sure that there's no lumps in it. There's definitely dark matter at the bottom. Let's put that to the side so I can reuse it later. Maybe we'll put a little mysterious in there. And I'm gonna just add it right from this. It's down the bottom. And I won't add any more Floetrol to it. I sort of want this to have a shimmer to it. All right. And we'll stir this up. All right, now it's got a little bit of a shimmer to it, which is wonderful. And it darkened it up a little bit, so I don't ever have to worry about that. So it got a little bit darker with that addition. This is also Prussian blue that I had mixed. And I'm just gonna add a little to the existing. I don't wanna use this cup to get everything into. I'm gonna give it a stir also, just to make sure it's fully integrated with each other. And I also took my coral and gold that I also had mixed up, because I want them all now to be in one cup, and just added the rest into these cups that I mixed on camera. I have right here Candy Apple by Art Minds, and it's their DIY iridescent line. I used this in Tidal Pool 2 the other day, and I figured this will be a nice pop of color to this this smorgasbord of colors over here. So let me just put this. This is how I save my paints when I'm done with them. I just put a Ziploc bag over them, and I reuse them 100 times over. All right. So I'm gonna turn the camera off. When I get back, we're gonna have a canvas sitting right here, and we're gonna pour with all of these colors.